Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we got a couple of things to discuss as we can continue on with our game review video. Today, talking about the 11 games that happened on Thursday and the 6 that happened yesterday on Friday. We'll get to all that coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the Internet Talkie Channel. Before we begin this video, don't forget to like this video and subscribe down below. We are so close to 100 subscribers. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to do this with all of you guys, so don't forget to subscribe. As usual, I'm going to do my game review video here, talking about the last few game reviews from the past couple of days. So we'll start off here with the games that happened on Thursday. We have 11 games that happened on Thursday. To start with, we have the Chicago Blackhawks play the Tampa Bay Lightning. It was 2-1 Tampa at one point in this game, but then Connor Bedard came alive, had a 4.9 in this game, and led the Blackhawks to a 5-2 victory of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Hawks improved to 5-7-0 in the year. Bolts dropped to 6-4-4. This was a really good game from Chicago. This was really the first breakout game for Connor Bedard. Bedard had 2 goals, 2 assists, a 4-point night. One of the youngest players ever, if I'm correct, to hit a 4-point night. So he had one heck of a game in this one. On top of that, Foligno had a 3-assist night. Philip Kurashev had 2 assists. And then Tyler Johnson, Corey Perry, and the first ever career NHL goal from Kevin Korchinski were the other goal scorers for the Chicago Blackhawks in the win. So huge win there for the Chicago Blackhawks to pull off the 5-3 victory. Meanwhile, for the Tampa Bay Lightning, Cirelli had a goal and an assist, and Kucherov and Stamkos also scored for the Bolts in the loss. As it was a really close game, but it was the Hawks that came with the win. So Hawks definitely had a really good game. Bedard looked really good, and the Bolts wound up dropping a close one. So it was a huge game there for the Blackhawks to win, scoring 4 and answered from down 2-1. So it was a really, really good game there. Bedard definitely led the way. He looks fantastic. He's on pace now for probably the most points by a rookie this year. So really, really good stuff there from Bedard, and hopefully he can continue this pace. Meanwhile, Bolts dropped to 6-4-4, lose some ground in the Atlantic Division, falling a little bit now, but still, they're doing a really good job. They're keeping it close, and the Hawks do end up getting on the better side of the Bolts and beating them. So, huge win there for Chicago to improve to 5-7-0, dropping Tampa to 6-4-4. Then we had the New York Islanders play Boston Bruins, really close game there, but propelled by a Charlie Coyle hat trick, the Boston Bruins were able to get a 5-2 victory over the New York Islanders. Huge game there for the Bruins to continue their winning ways, improving to 11-1-1, while the Islanders drop to 5-4-3. So really good stuff there from the Bruins. They were able to get 5 goals, including the 5th goal here. As you can see here, remember all clips are created at Sportsnet, but the 5th goal here was Charlie Coyle getting his 3rd of the night, his first career, if I'm correct, NHL hat trick. Also putting up a 4-point night, 3 goals and an assist. And Coyle was an absolutely fantastic beast in this game, putting up 4 points and helping the Bruins beat the New York Islanders. Pasternak had a 3-point night with a goal and 2 assists. Frederick also had a goal and an assist. And both JVR and Marchand had 2 assists for the Bruins in the win. Meanwhile, Holmstrom and Nelson were 2 goal scorers for the Islanders in the loss. So for the Islanders, they've not done overly well for the past little while. I think they've won 2-2 in their last 5 games, so they're not doing overly well. For the Boston Bruins, they, like I said, 11-1-1, really good record. Not sure if they'll be able to keep up this pace, but they're still doing fantastic right now. So good to see Boston still doing overly well after losing their first game against Detroit. They bounced back, done all right, but definitely not an overly great game for the New York Islanders, who do drop and are only a game above 500 now. Then we have the Vancouver Canucks take on the Ottawa Senators. They would score 15 seconds in, never really look back, and beat the Ottawa Senators 5-2 to improve to 10-2-1, dropping the Ottawa Senators to 5-7-0. So really bad bone breaker there for the Senators right after they had a really good, fantastic win over the Leafs. Canucks, meanwhile, improved to 10-1. They're up to double digits now, joining the double digits win club. So definitely a fantastic win there for the Vancouver Canucks. Persson had a 3-point night for the Vancouver Canucks with a goal and 2 assists. Mikheyev scored twice. Miller had a goal and an assist. Giuseppe and Kuzmenko both had 2 assists, and Besser also scored for the Canucks in the victory. Meanwhile, for the Senators, Zub and Batherson were 2 goal scorers for the Ottawa in the loss. So it was once again a really good game. Ottawa did quite well in limiting the Canucks shots. They definitely looked like they didn't do overly bad, especially coming off that victory against Toronto on Wednesday. But still, besides that, the Canucks were able to find ways to win. They didn't have too many shots, but they had 5 goals. The Smith once again played brilliant, and the Canucks were able to come away with the victory. So good teams find ways to win even when they're not the best team on the ice each and every night, and that's what the Canucks did. So Canucks looked really good. They were able to escape with the win. For Ottawa, it's still not a whole bunch of positivity on that team right now going into today's action, but still, it was a solid game, and they did look like they built off of the Toronto win, but still, it was a loss, and they do drop back down to 2 games below 500. Then you had the Montreal Canadiens take on the Detroit Red Wings, and the Montreal Canadiens were able to win 3-2 in overtime. Once again, the OT winner was Cole Caulfield. Caulfield continues to be lethal in overtime for the Montreal Canadiens, one of the fastest players ever to start scoring goals in overtime, as the Canadiens improved to 6-5-2, dropping the Detroit Red Wings to 7-5-2. So for the Canadiens, it was a huge game. Matheson had a 3-point night with a goal and 2 assists. Suzuki had a goal and an assist, and Caulfield, like I said, OT winner to help the Canadiens beat the Detroit Red Wings. Once again, Matheson and Suzuki continued their hot starts to the season. Meanwhile, for Detroit, Christian Fischer, who scored his first career goal with the Detroit Red Wings, and JT Compher were 2 goal scorers as the Wings dropped to the Canadiens in 3-2 in overtime. So definitely, Wings continue to fall after starting out. I think it was like 6-1-0. They've definitely started to falter a little bit. Meanwhile, for the Canadiens, back above 500 after losing 3 straight. That's a really good win there. They could definitely do it without overtime, but with a guy like Caulfield who's able to score at will in overtime, they can make do with winning in overtime. So really good win there for the Montreal Canadiens to get the win, and they improved to back above 500. Then you have the New York Rangers just let all of their frustration out against Minnesota Wild. Last time these two played just a little while ago, the New York Rangers got out to a 3-0 lead. They blew it and lost 5-4 and showed to the Wild. Different story this time. Backstop by Louis Domingue with Quick and Shesterkin hurt. The New York Rangers were able to down the Minnesota Wild 4-1 to improve to 10-2-1, just like the Vancouver Canucks. Meanwhile, the Wild dropped to 5-6-2, and they're back down to below 500. For the Rangers, they were able to get a goal and 2 assists from both Lafreniere and Trocheck. Panarin had a goal and an assist, and Blake Wheeler, first as a member of the New York Rangers, also scored for the New York Rangers in the win. So solid games there from a lot of the Rangers. The Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere line continues to contribute on all circles. They're winning with their third-string goaltender. They're winning without Adam Fox. The Rangers team looks difficult to stop right now, and they continue to extend their lead for the Metropolitan Division title. So definitely really good stuff there for the Rangers, and they were able to escape with a 4-1 victory over the Minnesota Wild, who do wind up falling to 5-6-2, and they're now back down to a game below 500, which is not overly great. Then we had the Dallas Stars taking on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Jackets got 2 goals quickly in the first period. They take a 2-0 lead, but that would quickly evaporate, and the Stars by the end of the game would have won 5-2, scoring 5 unanswered goals. Duchesne had a 3-point with a goal and 2 assists. Sagan had a goal and an assist. Lundqvist had 2 assist nights, and then Craig Smith, Mason Marchment, and Jason Robertson all also scored for the Stars in the win. Meanwhile, Jenner and Marchenko were 2 goal scorers for the Jackets in the loss. So it was definitely a really close game from both sides. Jackets dropped to 4-5-3. Stars are up to 8-3-1. So definitely a really close game there, but the Stars do come away with a victory. Stars have now won both games against Columbus Blue Jackets this year. Jackets still not doing overly well. They're on a pretty bad losing streak right now, so hopefully they can turn things around and get some wins in not just in the future, as they're now back down to below 500. Meanwhile, for the Stars, they continue to do overly well. 8-3-1, leaders of the Central Division right now. They look good. They're able to come back from down to 2-0 deficit, so definitely Stars look fantastic, and they continue to win. Then you had the Jets take on the Predators. On the back of Kyle Connor, the Winnipeg Jets won this game 6-3. Connor had a hat-trick and a 4-point night with 3 goals and an assist. Shifley had 4 assists night. DeMello and Iafallo both had 2 assists, while Appleton, Perfetti, and Dillon also scored for the Jets in the win. Meanwhile, Forsberg scored twice. Barry had 2 assists, and Tomasino also scored for the Nashville Predators in the loss. Preds dropped to 5-8-0 on the year. Jets are now up to 3 games above 500, 7-4-2. So the Jets look all right. I may have underestimated them in my early season predictions because they look quite well right now, and they're comfortably in the 3rd spot in the Central Division right now. The Jets are able to have contributions from Connor each and every night, Shifley each and every night. Iafallo's actually fitting quite well in that team. So yeah, definitely they've had a lot of good contributions, and they look pretty lethal. Meanwhile, the Preds continue to have problems either defending or scoring. It seems to be always one of those problems each and every night. They're down to 5-8-0, 3 games below 500. I know some teams like Minnesota, like Seattle, after they started out below 500 in the first 10 games, they start to win a couple games, start to get closer. Even Calgary did. But meanwhile, the Nashville Predators went from 2 games below 500 to now 3 games below 500. So it's not looking overly good for Nashville, but the Jets are able to get the win over them. Then we had the St. Louis Blues, and not very much an eventful game, beat the Arizona Coyotes 2-1 to improve to 6-5-1, dropping the Coyotes to 6-6-1. So both teams are now up to 13 points on the season. Blues have a game in hand. Blues were able to get 2 goals from Thomas and Sundqvist. Coyotes got the lone goal scorer in Lawson Krause, as the Blues were able to down them 2-1. So really uneventful game. Blues get their revenge from being blasted by the last time these two played a couple of weeks ago, 6-2. So both teams have won a game in this season series now. A really close game. These two teams so far are teams who have been fighting for like a wild card spot up to this point, but it is the team in St. Louis who ends up coming away with the victory. Then we had the Seattle Kraken play Colorado Avalanche, and as you can see in this video here, the Seattle Kraken scored with seconds left in regulations thanks to Oliver Bjorkstrand to give the Seattle Kraken a 4-3 win over the Colorado Avalanche, who they beat in the first round of last year's playoffs. So it was a really good game for the Avalanche and the Kraken. Kraken are up to 5-6-3. They're only a game below 500, which is surprising given the fact they started 0-3-1. Meanwhile, for the Avalanche, they're down to 8-4-0, 1 point back of the Stars right now for the division titles. So both teams have really good games. As we said, Bjorkstrand scored twice, including the game winner. Schwartz had a goal and an assist. Larson and Dunn both had 2 assists. And Beniers got his first goal of the season. Took him long enough, but he was able to get his first of the year for the Kraken. For the Avalanche, meanwhile, McKinnon had 3.9 with a goal and 2 assists, while both Nichushkin and Byram also scored for the Avalanche in the loss. So, really close game. Avalanche have not looked overly well since losing their first game. They're 2-4-0, but still, not overly great news for the Colorado Avalanche to lose a game that could have easily gone to overtime, or they could have easily won. For the Kraken, this is sort of seems like it's starting to turn around for them. After starting 0-3-1, they're 5-3-2 in their last 10 games. They look pretty good. Looks like they're turning a corner. That slow start may cost them in the end, but they're at least starting to just get back up and challenge for a playoff spot. So it's definitely not overly ideal, but still the Kraken look like they're starting to turn things around. They have a chance to get back up to 500 today, so a solid win there in Seattle to get back to within 1 game of 500. Then you had the Pittsburgh Penguins take on the LA Kings. Penguins were able to come away with a huge 4-3 OT victory over the Pittsburgh Penguins to improve to 6-6. They're back up to 500, which is fantastic news for Pittsburgh. Kings, meanwhile, dropped to 8-2-3. They still have a solid record, but it was an OT loss for the Kings. Penguins got a goal and an assist from Crosby, 2 assists from Carlson, while Rust, Eller, and Gensel all also scored for the Pittsburgh Penguins in the victory. Meanwhile, Grundstrom, Fiala, and Kempe were 3 goal scorers for the Kings in the loss. So, Kings won the second half of a back-to-back. It was a really close game against the Penguins. They were able to still get a point out of it. So, Kings had a fantastic effort, but the Penguins, with the desperation of needing to get back up to 500, they looked like they had more bite to their game, and they were able to get the OT victory. So, close game from both sides. Really good game, but it was the Penguins who come away with the much-needed victory. Then we had the last game of the night be one of the ones that was the most watched, given the fact that everyone wanted to see if this was actually a possibility, and it did happen. The Edmonton Oilers continued their downward spiral and reached a new low, losing to the San Jose Sharks 3-2. The Oilers, a lot of people were wondering if they would actually be able to lose to San Jose, who's been a historically bad team so far this year, and they do. They wind up losing 3-2. Sharks were able to get a goal and an assist from both Zetterlund and Hurdle, who have been their 2 best forwards this year. Zadina also scored for the Sharks in the win, while Nurse and Nugent Hopkins both scored for the Oilers in the loss as they fall to 2-9-1. Sharks improved to 2-10-1. So both teams have 5 points. The Sharks are going to be the lower team in the standings because they have played 1 more game, but still, this is absolutely awful for the Edmonton Oilers. I don't think anyone at the beginning of the season thought they would be losing to the San Jose Sharks, so the Sharks could have the same record as the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers look bad offensively right now. They can't get depth scoring. They look bad defensively. Goaltending's not really great either. In this game, they got goalied by Mackenzie Blackwood, and sometimes you're just going to lose to a really hot goaltender, which Blackwood has been for the San Jose Sharks. He did the exact same thing against the Flyers 2 nights ago to get the win, but still, this is an absolutely embarrassing loss for the Edmonton Oilers, and they're going to fall to 2-9-1. So they continue to falter. Like we said, there were some teams like the Flames, like the Kraken, like the Wild started out bad. They started to turn things around. The Oilers continue to fall, so they need some sort of a move or a coaching change or something else soon, or they are going to start continuing to fall. They got a big game tonight, which we'll get to in a second. So horrible loss for the Edmonton Oilers, and the Sharks were able to tie them in points. We go over to yesterday's game action. First, you had the Washington Capitals jump out to a 3-0 lead in the first period over the New Jersey Devils. Hold on for a 4-2 victory over them. They improved to 6-4-2. Devils dropped to 7-5-1. So Devils still have a point on the Capitals, but it's now really close. the Capitals were able to get 2 goals from Evgeny Kuznetsov, a goal assist from recent call-up Nicholas Abuki-Bell. They also got 2 assists from Tom Wilson, and then Beck Malenstein also scored for the Capitals, while Meyer and Mercer scored the 2 goals for the Devils in the loss. So Devils didn't look overly great. They haven't looked fantastic since Hughes and Hischier left due to injuries. Hopefully they can get those 2 guys back in the not too distant future, but definitely it was another loss for the Devils without Hughes and Hischier. Meanwhile, for the Washington Capitals, they continue to do well. I think they're like 5-1-1 in their last 7 games. They look absolutely fantastic right now, and definitely I think it's a really good game there from the Washington Capitals to get that huge win. So important stuff there from the Capitals as they improved to 2 games above 500 and dropped the Devils to only 2 games above 500. Then you had the Florida Panthers and Carolina Hurricanes in a rematch of last year's Eastern Conference Final. Play a really good game. That's how the Florida Panthers scores 3 consecutive goals and hold on for a 5-2 victory over the Carolina Hurricanes as they continue to beat the Hurricanes even in the regular season. The Panthers improved to 8-4-0 on the year. Canes dropped to 8-6-0. For the Panthers, Barkov, Kachuk, and Verhaeghe all had a goal and an assist. Reiner had 2 assists tonight, while Stenlund and Balinskis' first NHL goal, as you can see here, also scored for the Florida Panthers in the win. Meanwhile, Carolina Hurricanes, Martinook had 2 assists, while Aho and Kotkaniemi were 2 goal scorers for the Canes in the loss. So, Canes had a pretty good game, but they were still not able to beat Bobrovsky. Florida, I was not expecting this, has done really well defensively and has put up some really good offensive performances, even without Ekblad and Montour. So, they look like they're doing all right. Ekblad and Montour will just be a huge increase to their team, but still, they're 4 games above 500. They're not doing overly bad. They look pretty good. They just beat the Hurricanes, which were a cup contender. So, don't look now, but the Panthers are one of the top teams in the Atlantic Division. So, look out for the Panthers. They continue to climb. They beat the Carolina Hurricanes with a huge 5-2 victory. Then we had the Buffalo Sabres played Minnesota Wild in the second half of the back-to-back. Sabres were able to escape with a very close 3-2 victory over the Minnesota Wild. Sabres were able to get a goal and an assist from Peterka and Skinner, and Yoki Haru also scored for the Sabres in the win. While Kaprizov had a goal and an assist, Zuccarello had 2 assists, and Eriksson Ek also scored for the Wild in the loss. Wild dropped to 2 games below 500 at 5-7-2. Sabres improved to, for the first time this year, 7-6-1. So they are above 500 for the first time this year. It's fantastic news for the Buffalo Sabres. After starting out 0-2-0 and 1-3-0, they've definitely turned things around. They look better offensively. They play much better defensively. Luukkonen and Levi, who are their tandem right now, look fantastic. And the Buffalo Sabres have definitely started to turn things around. After that bad start to the season, they're definitely turning things around. Meanwhile, for the Minnesota Wild, they're back down to 2 games below 500. They need to try and find ways to win. They're not having the best defensive efforts right now, and they could definitely use some more improvements. So this team, I expect to make the 3rd in the Central. They're still not above 500. So really concerned right now about the Minnesota Wild as they dropped to 5-7-2 in the year. They had the Maple Leafs take on the Calgary Flames yet in yesterday's game as well. The Leafs were able to get out to a 4-1 lead before the Flames were able to score a couple of goals, tie it up at 4-4, and the Leafs would wind up winning in the shootout 5-4. The Leafs improved to 7-5-2. Flames dropped to 4-7-2. Leafs were able to get a 3-point from William Nylander with 2 goals and an assist. This guy continues to produce. He has a 14-game point streak to start the year. He's been absolutely flying. His next contract, if I'm correct, is probably going to be around $10.5 to $11 million. He's absolutely phenomenal right now. So he's doing really well for the Leafs. Then you also get Yarncroke and Tavares scoring for the Leafs in regulation. And Marner and Domi scored the 2 goals in the shootout for the Leafs for the shootout victory. For the Flames, Zadorov, Pospisil, Zary, and Greer all scored their goals for the Calgary Flames in regulation, while Sharangovich was the lone goal scorer for the Flames in OT, so Flames do come away with the loss. It was a close game. They were able to show their resiliency by coming back in this game, getting to a tie, getting a point. They now have 3 points in their last 3 games, 2-1 record. But still, it's not overly fantastic, not the result you'd want to see, especially given the fact that they dug themselves into a 4-1 hole. Leafs showed resiliency after blowing the 4-1 lead, but still, they could definitely use some work defensively as well. So, going to be interesting to see, but the Leafs really need some work defensively, and the Flames continue to lose, but they at least get a point out of this one, which is really good for them. Then you had the San Jose Sharks in the second half of back-to-back after what was a huge, important win, tying them with the Edmonton Oilers in points. They then take on the league-leading Vegas Golden Knights. And this is sort of the difference between Edmonton and Vegas right now. The Knights destroy the San Jose Sharks. Vegas destroys them 5-0, showing the Edmonton Oilers how you should definitely beat the Sharks this year. They improved to 12-2-1, able to bounce back after back-to-back losses to the other 2 California teams. Meanwhile, the San Jose Sharks lose and drop to 2-11-1. So they're not doing overly well this year. We all knew that San Jose was not going to do overly well this year. Got a couple of good wins, but in this game, it was all Vegas all the time. Pietrangelo had 3.0 with a goal and 2 assists. Martinez scored twice for the Knights. Carlson had goal and assist. Amadio had 2 assists. Howden also scored for the Knights. Well, Hill stopped all 20 shots he faced in the win. Sharks, like we said, dropped to 2-11-1 with the loss. So it was a huge win there for the Knights. Big bounce-back game to get back to their winning ways after losing back-to-back games to the Kings and Ducks. But still, really big win for them. Sharks, we were expecting this. They're going to be a bad team. They got a couple of wins against the Oilers and the Flyers, which are really good wins, but they were never going to really beat the Golden Knights. So in the second meeting between these two teams this season, the Knights were able to destroy the Sharks 5-0. And then in the last game of the night, we had the Philadelphia Flyers beat the Anaheim Ducks 6-3 to improve to 6-7-1 and drop the Ducks to have back-to-back losses to 7-6-0. The Flyers were able to get 3.8 from Travis Sanheim with a goal and 2 assists. Tippett scored twice. Atkinson had a goal and an assist. Farabee had 2 assists. Belpedio and Couturier also scored for the Flyers in the win. Meanwhile, Leo Carlsson, the second overall pick in this year's draft, had a hat trick. The kid had a fantastic night, putting up his first career NHL hat trick, the first of the 2023 draft picks to hit the hat trick mark. And Carlson had a fantastic night to get the team to at least striking distance, but they were wind up losing. He got all 3 goals for the Anaheim Ducks. Killorn added 2 assists in this game, and the Ducks dropped to 7-6-0. So Ducks, like we said, had a pretty good start. They're starting to fall off a little bit, but still they look pretty good. They're getting offense from a lot of places. Meanwhile, for the Flyers, huge win there because they've been losing a ton recently, including to the San Jose Sharks. So much needed win there for the Flyers to improve to only 1 game below 500. But it was a really close game between those two teams. But that's all the game reviews we have for you today. We have a couple of games over the next little while. 12 games today, 5 games tomorrow, and 2 games on Monday. Here's a quick preview of all the games that happened over the next little while that we'll touch on Tuesday. The Jackets take on the Red Wings at 10 o'clock Pacific time today. Then you also have the Stars and Jets at 12 o'clock Pacific time today. Then you have the Bruins, Canadians, Canucks, Maple Leafs, Sens, Flames, Canes, Bolts, all playing at 4 o'clock Pacific time today. You have the Caps, Isles, the Sabres, Penguins playing at 4:30. The Coyotes, Preds playing at 5. The Blues, Avalanche at 6. And then 2 important games, one between the Oilers and the Kraken at 7, and one between the Flyers and Kings at 7:30. Oilers will be looking to improve their record. Then at Sunday, 10 o'clock in the morning, you have Blackhawks and Panthers. At 3, you have Stars and Wild. At 4, you have Canadians, Canucks, and Jackets, Rangers. And at 5, you have Sharks and Ducks. It'll be interesting to see how those games go. And then on Monday, 5:30, you have the Islanders and the Oilers. At 7 o'clock on Monday, you have the Avalanche and the Kraken in a rematch of the game from 2 nights ago. So definitely interesting stuff there. It will be interesting to see how those games go. Just a quick look at the standings as of just before the game start on November 11th. You have the Boston Bruins leading the Atlantic Division with 23 points, followed by the Florida Panthers with 17 and the Detroit Red Wings with 16. Rangers lead the Metropolitan Division with 21 points, followed by the Canes with 16 and the Devils with 15. The 2 wildcard spots are occupied by the 16-point Bolts and the 16-point Leafs, the 15-point Sabres, 14-point Canadians and Capitals, 13-point Islanders and Flyers, 12-point Penguins, 11-point Jackets and 10-point Senators are out of the playoffs right now. In the Western Conference, 17-point Dallas leads the Central Division, followed by 16-point Colorado and 16-point Winnipeg. Then you have 25-point Vegas leading the Pacific Division, followed by 21-point Vancouver and 19-point LA. And then you have the 2 wildcard spots being 14-point Anaheim and 13-point St. Louis, with 13-point Arizona and Seattle, 12-point Minnesota, 10-point Chicago, Nashville, and Calgary, and 5-point Edmonton and San Jose being out of the playoffs right now. So those are your playoff standings right now. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on all this stuff down in the comments. Are you surprised by any teams being in the playoffs right now? Are you surprised by any teams' really hot starts, really bad starts? Like we said, can the Flames, can the Predators, can the Wild, can the Sharks overcome slow starts to make the playoffs, or are they all going to be destined for the basement of the league? Definitely. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that, and which games you've liked over the past couple of days down in the comments. But that's what I'm going to talk about for today. Remember to like this video, and if you really like it, remember to subscribe down below. We are so close to 100 subscribers. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to do this with all of you guys, so don't forget to subscribe. I also do a blog talking about news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that, so definitely check that out. Leave a link to that in the description below, and I can't wait to see you guys all for next video. See you guys soon.